This is Peter Zareski of Zareski Plumbing, and today we're going to work on a Symonns S-96-1 shower valve. This is a very common shower valve used throughout the state of Massachusetts and in fact the country. And this is a real typical issue we have with the Symonns shower valves. They seize up and either leak, or you'll get only hot water or only cold water. And there's a couple of ways you can approach a problem like this. And today we're going to deal with a valve that is something I see a lot, where the handle becomes seized and a lot of the parts become seized onto the valve, and you have to go find a way to remove these things without damaging the internals. In this particular case, the homeowner started to give it a shot themselves and then quickly realized they were kind of getting in over their head, and that's when they called me. And we're going to come in here and fix the valve and do the least amount of damage to the surrounding area. Hopefully we can fix it without having to go into any walls or anything like that. Sometimes that is necessary, but seeing as we're going to try and keep this a low-budget repair, we're going to just try to go into the valve and see if we can just fix what's wrong inside before we throw a grenade into it and start having to take tiles out and replace the whole thing. Okay, as you can see, here we have the S-96-1 Temtrol shower valve from Symonns, and this is actually a tub shower model, and the internals are exactly the same, whether it's a tub shower model or a shower only model. The only difference is that the diverter is used to divert the water from the shower head to the tub spout on the tub and shower model, and on the shower only version of the valve, the diverter handle is used as a volume control to determine how much pressure is sent to the shower head. So as you can see, the homeowner's already removed the pinhole here, which covers the screw that holds the handle to the stem, and then also removed some of the plate screws which help remove the plate. Now, he's already told me that he couldn't get this screw out, and I haven't tried to take it out yet, but we're going to give that an attempt. And one of the other things I've noticed is that this is a metal handle, and what that tells me is that this Symonns valve is probably at least 10 years old, and they switched from metal to plastic probably about 8 or 9 years ago. And the reason for that is the metal handles corrode themselves on to the brass stem that is inside, that controls the hot water flow and also is the pressure balancing device for the Symonns valve. And pressure balancing is the industry standard now, and Symonns was the first company to actually come up with a pressure balanced valve almost 100 years ago. And what pressure balancing is it keeps you from getting scalded when somebody flushes the toilet by balancing the water pressure between the cold and hot water side. And what can happen is that pressure balancing device can become stuck one way or the other, and then you will get only cold or only hot water. In this particular case, we are getting only hot water. Now, sometimes you can get lucky, and if you take a screwdriver and put it right here and tap on it with a hammer with the valve about halfway open, you can free that spindle and get another couple months of operation out of it. However, that has already been tried per my recommendation to this homeowner with no luck. So we're going to go ahead now and try to remove that handle and see how far we can go before we have to start getting a little bit more aggressive with our removal techniques. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and see if we can get this screw out now. And it already looks kind of stripped, so I don't think I'm going to have much luck, but we've got to at least try. One thing I would like to note here is that I actually still have the water on, because I'm a professional and I know what I'm doing, and because I have a feeling we're going to have to go a little hard on this valve, which means that I'm probably going to hit it with a little heat at some point to try to free up this screw. And by leaving the water on and leaving water in the valve, we're going to protect some of the internal rubber seals and things from melting from the heat. If we get to a point where we go beyond that, or I feel there's any risk of water leaking out, then we'll be shutting the whole house off. But for anybody attempting to do this themselves, you should be aware that the very first thing you should do in working on any plumbing project is be safe and make sure the water's off. Okay, well, that screw's not going to come off, so we are pretty clearly going to have to start going to plan B, which is going to be, we're going to try to remove the handle around the screw. There's really no way you can drill this out, and that's going to take a little bit of persuasion, as I like to call it. Okay, here's the point where you really want to be a professional. I'm going to use the heat. You could try just kind of nipping this valve apart with pliers or something like that. But again, you know, we're trying to provide the least amount of strain on the internal parts. So I'm going to work on this screw for another moment or two and see if we can't make any progress. And to do that, we're going to heat it up. Okay, so after some heating and some work on that screw, just couldn't get it loose. It's just totally seized on there, and the screw was kind of stripped when we started, so we couldn't just get too much movement out of that. So it's come down to this. We're going to use a hacksaw, and we're going to cut through the stem, avoiding any of the other nuts and internal parts on the wall side of the valve that we're going to want to keep. Alright, so that handle is removed. We cut it off, and now we're removing the inner collar and exposing the inner bonnet of the spindle. And we're going to remove that now. Okay, here's our spindle, and as you can see, it's all green and pretty funky, definitely showing its age. And if you give this a shake, you hear that movement? Well, that's that pressure balancing thing I was talking about. So it does move, so this probably is some other problem. It looks like it's a lot of sediment in there from this well. There's a whole lot of iron. So it probably just gets periodically stuck, and this is just the last time she wasn't going to come loose. Okay, so we removed the old spindle, and now we're going to install the new spindle into the valve bonnet, like so. And this is the TA10 factory part from Symonns, and this is actually an important point to make because I've had to go to a couple service calls after other plumbers have been there and done a repair to a shower valve, and then homeowners had issues like strange pipe noise and just strange things happening with the plumbing system. And basically what it came down to is because they used the knockoff part that's sold at Lowe's and Home Depot to repair the valve instead of the genuine Symonns part, and it created a cross connection that was causing things like water hammers. So in other words, you don't want to cheap out. You want to buy the real TA10 from Symonns for this job. Okay, so we finished tightening in the spindle and the retention bonnet, and now we're just going to put the handle on and give it a test try before we put any of the trim back on the valve, so that if there are any leaks or drips or anything like that, we'll see them and be able to address them now. Okay, so we're going to let this run for a minute, let it get nice and hot, go through all the series of temperatures, and just watch it and make sure everything stays tight. Alright, I'm just going to snug this up. Snug these screws up. Check our diverter action. And get our valve handle on there. Get our screw in here. push in our piece, and there you go. That's the repair of the S-96-1 by Symonns for spindle replacement. And as you can see, everything's put back together. We had to get a new handle and a few other new parts like the TA10, but she's all good now, doesn't leak. We have hot and cold water, and even the water pressure seems to have improved over what it was before. Okay, as you can see, we have the valve fully trimmed off. All that's left to do is clean up a little bit, make sure there's no run strips or errors, and this job is done. So this is Peter Zareski from Zareski Plumbing. Check out our website, and we have other videos on things like Nabians and some underground work for a shower stall. So check out our videos. See you out there.